cream of the crop! But it does it better.
Yeah, but you are so money and you don't even know it.
I understood that reference.
Morning, Mr. Hammond.
Your mission, should you accept it,
Steal, destroy, shadow, disappear.
assemble the team.
And
Here we go.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to FreeWheeling Fridays, part of the Madness Entertainment Group. I am your host, Ryan of Anti Quote Channel, and on this show, we basically have a conversation with a guest. We take questions from you, the incredible audience out there, and we introduce you to some of the best creators in the world. With that being said, our guest on this episode of FreeWheeling Fridays is a member of the Flinch Books family, indie writer, publisher extraordinaire, and apparently he's a horror fan because he's got a bunch of horror movie and TV series posters behind him. Jim Beard is in the building. Hello, Jim Beard. How are you?
Hey, good. Hey, it's great to be back.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. Great to have you here who may be watching or listening to this right now. Do not forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends. And if you're joining us live or on a replay, thank you so much for doing so. And if you have any questions for Jim Beard as we go throughout the course of this episode, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. We're more than happy to take those as they come in respectively. With all that piece of business and whatnot out of the way, Jim Beard, if you don't mind me asking, tell us about yourself. Who are you?
My favorite subject, right? So, well, like you said, so I'm a writer, editor, and publisher. I have two publishing houses, one of which you already mentioned, and we're celebrating 10 years.
Would you care to try that again?
Yeah, I'm having this little camera problem. Flinch Books is 10 years old this year. We started in 2015, my publishing partner, John Bruning, and I, and we have taken the world by storm. We do like one or two books a year, which isn't a whole lot compared to some other publishers, but we look at it as, quantity. We don't look at it as quantity. We look at it as quality, not quantity. We feel like we have some of the, best writers that we work with, and we do some great editing, and we're super proud of our covers, and we're having such a great time. And I also have Becky Books, which is the stuff that I do on my own. And mostly that's like nonfiction books, but all pop culture related. And then a little bit of, fiction on the side. I love what I do, and I do what I love. And that's my publishing writing world in a nutshell.
Smashing, beautiful, fantastic, and congratulations on 10 years of Flinch Books. That's a huge deal.
Yeah, they said it wouldn't last, and it did.
Yeah, I mean, they said the same thing. I mean, Star Trek may have lasted 3 seasons, but then again, it came back with a vengeance with TNG and the animated series and all that stuff. And now look at it 50 years later. It's got, like a dozen different series, 20 different movies, bunch of comics, bunch of tie-in books, novels and things of that nature. So, just when you thought, Star Trek would be dead after only 3 seasons in its original airing, look at it now.
Yeah. So, I don't know if I can compare myself to that.
Oh no, but I'm just using it as an example.
Like Star Trek, but yeah, John and I feel like we're the little small press publisher that could, and we did.
Yeah, no, and it's great stuff. And congratulations to both you and John and everyone who's taken part in Flinch Books' success and all that jazz. So, just out of curiosity, what advice would you give to aspiring writers out there?
Yeah, when I get asked that, I get down to 2 really basic things, and those are finish something. And I think that's one of the prevalent problems going on right now, and I hear that from a lot of writers or people who want to be writers or want to get published, which is they start things and then they don't finish it, and then they're left with this like litter of puppies, that need much more nurturing than that, and then they never get to the step of being published. So again, finish something. It may not be very good, but at least when you type in the end, then you can go back and make it pretty. But the point is that you can actually say, I have one whole thing, and then I can work on it, instead of having 15 unfinished things laying around out there. The other one is, and this one is kind of a tough love kind of a thing, is don't let your mother read your manuscript. And what I mean by that is to not have someone who is so close to you read and critique your work, because what they're going to do is they're going to tell you it's great no matter what it is. They're going to tell you it's great, and honestly, that's really not what you need. You need a little bit more structure to getting somebody else to look at your, your work and assess it. That might mean going to a stranger. That might mean hiring an editor. That might mean many things. But getting your mom or your dad or your sister or your aunt, to read your stuff is just not really helpful, because what's going to happen is you're going to put out something that's not ready to be put out, and you might make yourself look foolish by doing that. Those are my two big things. There's probably many other things, but definitely those two things.
Valid points, and good pieces of advice too. So thank you for bringing that up. I noticed you got some posters behind you, and I didn't know this side of you before. I knew you were an indie writer and a publisher, and you liked certain things about it and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But what's with the? Because this is a new set for you. Because the first time you were on, and this was on And I Quote, which you can find on And I Quote channel on YouTube.
Yeah.
You had a completely different setup at the time, and now you got this new thing going on. I'm just wondering what posters are these from, and why are you such a horror fan all of a sudden? Or maybe this has been going on for years, and I just found out about this today.
This is my writing room, and actually, on every wall, throughout the whole room, is my favorite Universal monster movies. So I guess I'm more of a classic horror fan. Like, I don't really care for the modern stuff, and really nothing much past maybe the classic Hammer horror film era. Early 70s, if even that. But I just really wanted to decorate this room, and I found a great source for these posters. So we've got like the original Black Cat, we've got Bride of Frankenstein, Dracula's Daughter, Mummy's Tomb, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, and so on. And they just, I don't know, they're colorful and bright, and they really just serve as inspiration. What I always think back to is Ray Bradbury at the beginning of his show that he used to have, what was that called? Like Ray Bradbury Theater or whatever. It opened up with him in a room filled with things, and then he would sit there and he'd look up and gain some little inspiration from somewhere and then start to writing. And I'm a great believer in that, in surrounding myself with things that I like to look at, so that they're always an inspiration to me.
Oh, all right. Learning more, getting more inside the mind of Jim Beard here, because when it comes to classic, horror films, I didn't start watching them until some years ago.
Yeah.
And the first one I saw was at a Comic-Con. It was the Mid-Atlantic Nostalgia Convention in Hunt Valley, Maryland, and they had Rico Browning, who was the Gill Man for Creature from the Black Lagoon, which is the OG, one of the OG Universal monster movies. One of the first 8 or 7 that were ever made, I believe, or something like that.
It's actually at the end.
Yeah, at the end of the reign. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the classic ones are 30s, 40s.
Yeah, 30s, 40s. Yeah.
Creature kind of signals pretty much the end of the cycle of the Universal films.
At that time, yeah, for sure, and absolutely. So I met Rico Browning, got an autograph, all that stuff, and then he had a Q&A that night at the convention, and then they showed the movie Creature from the Black Lagoon. I had never seen it before, never. So I sat in a darkened room, what felt like a darkened theater, all that good stuff. Watched the movie, and as soon as the movie was over, I thought, this movie's only 70. I thought, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen. It's only 75 minutes long. How is that even possible? But it works. It works very effectively. And Creature from the Black Lagoon was scary. It was thrilling. It was exciting. All this stuff. And apparently, once again, our good friend is having technical difficulties with his camera. But as I'm talking about my love for Creature from the Black Lagoon, the film is great, and I loved it. And then I went back and got the Blu-ray box set that has the first 7 or 8 films in Universal Monsters history. So I've seen all of them. But my favorite is Creature from the Black Lagoon is my favorite. And then behind that, because these are in no particular order: Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Wolfman, Lon Chaney Jr.
Good for you.
You also have what was the other one? Let's see. You have why am I blanking? Oh, The Invisible Man. The Invisible Man is great. Claude Rains. Yeah, Frankenstein.
Dracula,
yeah. I liked. I actually liked The Phantom of the Opera with Claude Rains. I thought that was really good.
Oh, you know what? That's funny, because I don't care overly much for the original Lon Chaney Senior silent film.
Senior, yeah.
Yeah, but I really, really do like the Claude Rains film. My wife was a big fan of that one, and then there's also a Herbert Lom one that's I think that's Hammer. It's a little bit later on. That's not bad either. But the Claude Rain one is really really nice, really really good. And if I'm not mistaken, they used the same opera set that Chaney Senior did. You know what? That's really cool. That Creature was your like, like the way your entrance, your window into those. I'm so glad you said you love the Wolfman because Wolfman with Lon Chaney Jr. is my favorite Universal monster movie of all. Strangely enough, like my favorite monster is the
Right.
Frankenstein monster, but I love the Wolfman as a movie.
Yeah.
The best.
Yeah. Good stuff. And
Yeah.
let's not forget about all the great makeup and prosthetics were put together by Jack Pierce.
Yeah.
So can't forget about Jack Pierce. We miss you, man.
To me, the
yeah.
Universal monster movies, like you said, it's only sometimes like an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it is short time frames, short run times, and yet they still manage to be, one of those things where the movie tells a tight story, tight characters, tight actors, all that stuff. So it really works. The great actors, the great cast, the music, everything.
Yeah, I look at them as sort of like the same way I look at Pulp Fiction, which is basically they get in, tell the story, and get out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot more. A lot of those were programmers, that as they started to go along, they started to gear them more towards kids, and maybe you'd get a couple movies in an afternoon or something like that. So you got into like the Mummy films, and they were just, they were alongside something else. So they were quick, tell the story, couple chills and thrills, and then it's over. Some of the other ones before that are a little bit more artistic. The original Frankenstein, the original Dracula, but still they're short films. It's not a lot of time investment.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, those are of the originals. Those are my four favorites. Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Invisible Man, The Wolf Man, The Phantom of the Opera. Love those movies. And one of the common denominators is Claude freaking Rains, because he's a boss who's acted for so many decades and so many years. I mean, for Pete's sake, the guy's been in so many films, including Hitchcock's Notorious. He was also in Casablanca. Round up the usual suspects. It's just
which I just watched.
Yeah.
It
Oh, you
was
did?
just at TCM, right? Yeah. It ended about like 10 o'clock or better. I just
Genius.
watched it again.
That's genius. Who doesn't like that movie? The movie's great.
That's one of those movies that like sometimes I worry I watch it too much and that I might get sick of it, but I never do. It's just such a good movie, just so classic. In the same way that the Universal films are classic.
Yeah, and one of the best things about some of those early films with Hollywood and filmmaking is the black and white. It was big deal back in the day. So Casablanca is one of my favorite black and white films. Notorious by Alfred Hitchcock with Claude Rains, Ingrid Bergman. Again, hello, a bit of a Casablanca reunion. Goodness gracious, it's amazing, and some of the best actors in the world are in these films. So take a look at them, learn about your history, because there's a lot of great films in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and whatnot that were the benchmark, that were the pillars, the trendsetters, so to speak. So, I mean, look at
the Marvel movies and the Marvel TV series.
The current stuff that's been going on.
Yeah, Marvel Studios.
Yeah, here's the thing. I when Endgame came out, that was great, and then when they call it Endgame for a reason, I was pretty much done. The only thing I've seen post Endgame is Falcon and Winter Soldier on Disney Plus. # not a sponsor. Good show. Liked it a lot because I like my superhero type stuff to be dark and gritty. I'm just a dark and gritty fan ever since Nolan kind of reinvented the thing with Batman Begins in 2005, which turns 20 this year, believe it or not. And I haven't seen any of the MCU. Plus, I've heard a lot of negativity surrounding MCU in the last 5 years. There's been a lot of bad movies that have, from what I've been told.
Two things. So this morning I went to see the new Captain America film.
Brave New World,
Some people are kind of calling it like Falcon and the Winter Soldier season 2. That's not a fair assessment, but it is an assessment. Here's something I want to recommend to you. It's been 2 years now, maybe roughly 2 years. They had a Halloween special on Disney Plus. They did Werewolf by Night.
Yeah,
and
I heard about it.
First put out, it was black and white.
Yeah, I heard about that.
It is pretty much an ode to. Now it's more graphic, than the Universal films, but there's a lot about it and the way it was done that is sort of an ode to the Universal film. So I highly, highly recommend it. In fact, I was a little disappointed that I thought they would do some more of the Marvel monsters in that same way, and they haven't. But it did really well, and weirdly enough, and then they put it out in color, because I guess there are people who just can't stand to watch a black and white film, which I mean, I respect that in some ways, but other ways it's like I can't see what they're seeing there.
All right, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as MCU post Endgame, I've only seen Falcon and Winter Soldier, so I'm like 2 billion miles behind. But I do, I do have an intention to see Brave New World because I'm a huge Captain America Winter Soldier fan. So, and Brave New World, at least from the trailers, I can't say anything about the finished product, but the trailer made it seem like they were going back to that bit of a dark and gritty, but still a little bit of levity tone that they had in Winter Soldier, which is why I think Captain America Winter Soldier is the best solo MCU movie.
Yeah,
so.
I think I can, agree with that to some extent. Yeah, the movie today, it kind of emulates some of the things that people really liked about the movie Winter Soldier, Captain America Winter Soldier, that to bring back in some more of that, thriller, espionage, mystery kind of thing going on. And then, of course, I mean, it still has some of the super heroics thrown in, for good measure. But it's a little bit more grounded, obviously, than Endgame or some of the other, type of films. But it's good. It's not one of the best, and it's not one of the worst.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard some, as far as Brave New World is concerned, I've heard some negativity towards it. People say it was meh, okay, not great, not terrible, but not, whatever. It's kind of somewhere in the middle. For some people, it's like somewhere in the middle, and then some people are like, it was terrible, it was a convoluted mess, it doesn't make any sense. I'm like, all right, whatever. I haven't seen, say what you want, but I haven't seen it yet. So I want to sit down and watch it for myself, and then I'll say, hey, if this film's great, I will sing its praises, and if it's bad, I'll state why.
Well, if you want to take any recommendation from me, Werewolf by Night.
Yes.
And it's, what? It's funny. It's just about the length of one of the old Universal films too. It's literally like an hour and some odd minutes or something like that. But I really liked it.
Yeah, well, that's
you like the Wolfman movie.
I do like the Wolfman. I own it on. It's funny. It's funny. Some of these Universal monster movies, I have them on 3 formats. I have them on Blu-ray, DVD, and digital. Which, because I got Wolfman. Apparently, I got it on digital now. And then another one I got was it Wolfman? And what was the other one? I'm trying to think. It wasn't Invisible Man. Was it Creature? Maybe Creature from the Black Lagoon. I think it was on digital, and I have that on Blu-ray and DVD too. So yeah. I just, anytime I want to watch any of these great classic films, I can always go back and throw in my DVD or just go on digital and be like, hey, I'm going to pop this into my Movies Anywhere and just watch it on digital on my tablet because I feel like watching a movie today like this. So why the frack not?
My wife did that. Like every time Universal would put out a new set of the, of the movies, she'd buy the new set, and we have like how many different, DVDs, Blu-rays, or whatever. Like every so many years, they put out a new set of them. But she was a huge Bela Lugosi fan, so of course she had to have every version of Dracula, that came out.
Bela Lugosi, I bid you welcome. I hope you would like.
That wasn't so bad.
Yeah, sorry. I know it's my poor attempt at a impression there of the late great Bela Lugosi. I can't hold a candle to that guy. No pun intended, Dracula.
No pun. I was just.
Yeah, because he's holding a candle when he's welcoming people. I bid you welcome. It's just whatever. Once again, for those
of the night.
Yeah, children of the night. What music they make. Let's get to the trailer now. Thanks. Once again, this is FreeWheeling Fridays, part of the Madness Entertainment Group. Do not forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends. If you're joining us live or on the replay and wondering why we're doing weird impressions, we're doing it because we like movies. Deal with it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to everyone who's made comments thus far. Thank you to everybody watching or listening to us at this particular time. We also want to take this opportunity to thank Jim Beard for being our guest on this episode. It's been a lot of fun and a bit educational so far. And we also want to remind you that Indie supports Indie. We do our best to support as many people as we can. So without any further ado, before I go to our next question and turn things over once again to Jim Beard, because man, you got some stories. Do you want to share this with you? Take a look. There you go. Check out ckoepp.com. Check out Cindy Kep, wonderful woman, wonderful writer. She's got a lot of great things in store for every readers of all ages, I would say. So it's fantastic stuff. Good Lord.
And
Universal.
I see that. That's nice. She has characters with disabilities
Mm-hmm.
in there, so
Yep.
obviously that's very important to her. Very
Mm-hmm.
nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of great things. And the kid-friendly comics, I've read Animal Eye issue 1. I think it's fantastic and great. I hope to read issues 2, 3, 4, and 5, which,
Cool.
Cindy, I got to buy the rest of the issues of the comic. I'm so behind. I'm so sorry. But Animal Eye as a comic book is fantastic.
Well, with
Fantastic.
you describing before we came on all of the stuff that you do, I'm not surprised you're behind on some of your, entertainment things or whatever. You do too much.
I think that's the problem. I need
Yeah.
to cut back on some stuff. Maybe depending on what happens with some certain changes that are going to be made here in the next couple of weeks, maybe I'll be able to find more of a work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is. Isn't that what they call it? Work-life balance. They try to, they tell me that at one job, and then I've heard at other positions and all this other stuff, or other jobs I've had and occupations I've had over the years. So it's good to have a work-life balance, folks. Try to maintain it. I don't know, because plus I want to go back to not only reading my TBR. You can't see, but my TBR list is pretty pathetic. My to be read list is 6 miles long. Thanks, which includes John Bruning's. What's the one I have here? It's what's it called? God and Sinners, The Midnight Guardian.
Yeah.
So that one's sitting on my shelf too. Sorry, John.
That's funny that you mentioned John because he always brings up his TBR list, or
really?
his stack, which is always, I keep mine more reasonable. Mine's only usually about like
this small.
Yeah.
It's about this thick.
Because then it doesn't get depressing when you look at it and go, oh no, I'm so far behind.
It's
all arbitrary, right?
It is. But I do have John's book that I really want to read. So, and he mentioned to me.
Yeah, you better get that done because he's working on the 4th one.
Oh man, I got to get. Yeah, you're right. John's working on more. So.
Well, you know what? That's the cool thing about our 10th anniversary year is
Yes.
that our two foundational characters for Flinch are his Midnight Guardian and my Sergeant Janice characters. We are both in the middle of writing the 4th volume for each, the characters that we will be putting out this year for our 10th anniversary. So that's very interesting that you bring up Midnight Guardian. Yeah, everybody out there needs to get caught up on both of those characters because there's 4th volumes on the way.
So much to do and so little time. Yeah. Photos. Who is that lost? It's Knox. Bad tie. No style. Stop the press. Who is that?
I had not watched that in decades. And I just read John Jackson Miller's sequel to. He's got it on the TBR file. You're gone. There you are. Yeah. Listen, I want to give a hearty recommendation for that book. That really surprised me. It's been my most favorite of John's tie-in works so far. He's done a lot of different things, but I was really pleasantly surprised by that. He nailed the characters, the feeling, of the first movie, and he's got another one coming out later in the year. And again, I want to give a really big recommendation to that one. Look at that! Boy, what a gorgeous cover that is on.
Mm-hmm. So there's your book, John. It's proof. Right. I have it. It's right here.
That's
right
great.
Here on my shelf. It's right here with what else do we have here? Goodness gracious. I mean, I got some action stuff. I don't know. It's a mixture. I mean, if you're curious.
Yeah, I am.
Vipers and Red Rocks by L.S. Guzdich, who's going to be on my show, and I quote in a couple of weeks. Looking forward to have you there, Luke. That's going to be a lot of fun.
I saw him at Pulp Fest last year. Yeah.
Oh, you did see him. All right, cool.
Oh, yeah, that was first time I ever met him. I had just sort of met him recently online, but met him in person at Pulp Fest.
Yeah, he's going to be on my show in a couple of weeks, and I tune into his show too, the Men's Adventure Fiction Podcast. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I hope to get onto that one day.
Yeah, and then I'm halfway through this one right now. One Man's Treasure by Terrence Lehue, who was on my show recently on Anti-Quote.
Sure. Yeah, yep. I know him too.
Yeah, this one is. I mean, I'm halfway in, but dude, Terrence, brother, you're killing it, man. I mean, it's just rocking it. So yeah, I find myself buying a combination of two different things. One, all this, including more you can't see because this is only a small slither of the sandwich.
Uh-huh.
It's a big sandwich. Okay, this is a very big sandwich, and you saw
It's a
John Jackson
Dagwood.
Miller's
It's a Dagwood sandwich.
John Jackson Miller's back there, as you can see. So
Good.
he's sitting there on the shelf, respectively.
Good.
Let's
Move
see.
that one to the top.
I mean, it's sitting on top of this one. Yeah, it's sitting on top of that one. I'm in the middle of reading Snow Hunt by Bobby Nash, the main man, the big dog. Love you, Bobby. You're the man.
Yep.
And I love this series. If you're a fan of Burn Notice, if you're a fan of Rockford Files, that kind of thing, you need to check out the Abraham Snow series, man. This is
Bobby
peak
Nash
work.
is like the equivalent of you, yet in the
Yeah.
pulp world. He's like the hardest working man in the pulp world. Charles Millhouse, yep.
Can't forget about this one.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I just did a story for him. He just put out Pulp Reality #5, and have a new story in that with Charles.
Yeah,
wow,
so
you got all of the greats there, except me.
I mean, well,
folks, this is the portion of the show where Jim shames Ryan.
Yeah, no. I do want to read your the DC Jones Adventure Command series.
Good.
That
That's the one that. Yeah, good. That's the stuff that you need to read. Those should be quick reads too.
Yeah, I need to buy those ones of yours and have them sit right here on this ridiculously good looking shelf. So it's a lot of books, fellas. It's a lot of books. But listen, there's nothing wrong. This is the thing. I was about to state this earlier. Two things I find myself buying more of this and that and the other every year. I buy more books, and I also get something that I love that is included in reading is if you have to take a pause for something and you need a bit of a breather, bookmarks. So.
Oh, that's a Bobby Nash bookmark too. Yeah.
I have the bookmark. Yeah,
that was an amazing thing to watch him develop that little, side hustle, if you will, of his. Yeah, he's doing doorknob hangers too. I just love it. It was just so cool to watch that develop over time. Yeah, and now he just does tons of them.
Oh, he's made over 1,000 bookmarks now. I know.
Where do you people find the time to do all this stuff?
This is my favorite right here. Transform and bookmark out of Optimus Prime. I love this. Look at the color on this.
Yeah. Wait, yeah, it's not even just the drawing, but then he has a little saying on each one of them. They're each saying something that relates to reading and whatever they do,
Yeah, this is from a friend of mine. His name's Josh Bauer, J Bauer Arts. You can find him on there it is, jbauerart.com. He's a good friend of mine. I've known him for many, many years. He was one of the first people I started following on social media during the pandemic, and we were networking with other people. He makes bookmarks that are available for $5 on his website. He's got a bunch of different designs, and I love this one because it's just being out in nature, looking at a sunrise, walking in the mountain.
Side hustle.
Look at that. See that? It's beautiful. He's great. He's also got comic book related ones. Mm-hmm. 3 iterations of Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, Tom Holland, all 3 Spider-Man.
Like the chess symbols, yeah.
Yeah, the chess symbols of Spider-Man, yeah.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah, Sega Genesis, if you're a Sega Genesis fan and played a lot of Sonic. Genesis. Yeah, so go to jbauer.com. You may find yourself liking something. There's a night wolf here howling at the moon, which I think is really cool. I don't know. I like random stuff.
I used to do little sketch cards at shows, but then I let that one slip away. Maybe I need to start doing that again.
Here's your favorite Batmobile.
Cool kids, right?
Here's your favorite Batmobile right here.
Yeah, look at that. No, my favorite. Wait, that's no. I apologize. The '66 Batmobile.
Oh,
Batmobile.
I don't get you.
As is Adam West, my favorite.
True. Millennium Falcon.
Oh, that's nice. Very nice.
There you go. So yeah, by the way, these metal bookmarks are made by Rob Taylor of HerofiedArt.com on Etsy. Herofied Art. So you can find him on what is it called? Instagram. He's on Instagram. He's got a big following too. He's doing great things for himself. So love you, Rob. But yeah, I find myself buying books and bookmarks. It's just so weird. But these are sitting, bookmarks and books and all that kind of jazz. They're sitting on my shelf. Ridiculously. So I have a stack of books and a stack of these. So if anyone's looking for bookmarks, look at bobbynash.com or jbauerart.com or Herofied on Etsy. Yeah, I got a problem. I got big problems.
You have a bookmark problem.
I do have a serious.
I'm the kind of guy that pretty much just grabs anything around and and sticks it in there to use as a bookmark. So maybe I need to up my bookmark
I guess. I don't know. It's so strange. But books, bookmarks, they all go hand in hand, folks. Keep it in mind. Goodness gracious. Wow. So just out of curiosity, because you mentioned something about Pulp Fest. So have there been any recent special memories for you from being at conventions, whether you're there as a vendor or there as an attendee?
Only that, like the last couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
Flinch Books has had the best years that we've had at Pulp Fest. What I like is that it seems to be growing, which is nice. Just like the way comic book conventions have changed and grown over the last several years, as far as now it's like families. It's not just a bunch of guys, like the stereotypical Comic Con attendees. It's women are going to the shows now and families, and we're starting to see some growth at Pulp Fest too. It's not just going to buy old vintage pulps. It's more and more of the guys like me who are, writing in that style and putting out new stuff. In fact, anything. Actually, John and I talk about this all the time. We're having more and more competition, come in at these shows. Like Charles Millhouse has just started to go to Pulp Fest, and it's like, great. There's that much more competition. You know Brian K. Morris, Brian?
Yeah, absolutely. He's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, good. So he went last year too, and I
Mm-hmm.
think he's going to be back this year. Rising Tide production. So it's really nice. There's a really great crowd of small press publishers
Mm-hmm.
out there. A lot to explore, and if you get to see them at one of these shows, it's really amazing because you get to really, pick up, a book and look at it, and get to talk to the writer, the editor, the publisher face to face. So that's like the really great things that are going on, and beyond that, it's just being in with my tribe. We have the best conversations in the hotel lobby after the show, and it goes on into the wee hours of the morning, just talking. Not only the business but life and everything else. So it's always a good time at that show. Highly recommended.
Yeah, it is on my bucket list. It is in the state
Oh,
of
you would
PA.
love it. You
Yeah,
would
it's in
just love it.
PA, and PA's not. I mean, PA is not too far from Maryland, but at the same time, you guys are in a much different echelon of PA than I've traveled to before. But I'm not against it because Pulp Fest sounds like my type of thing. I love reading.
Yeah.
I love books. I like supporting other writers and publishers because we know a lot of you and I travel. Not maybe not travel, but we know a lot of people in the similar circles. Whether
Oh,
it's the
yeah.
Brian K. Morrises, the Bobby Nashes, the Charles F. Millhouse, and
Mhm.
between you and John. And Luke's there now, and Nathaniel Hummel, who's Luke's friend, on the Men's Adventure Fiction podcast, which you can find on Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. And he's going to be on And I Quote in a couple of weeks.
Great.
Luke is, so I'm excited to have him on and talk about Vipers and Red Rocks. And he's also got a new book coming out called Fire in the Tall Grass. So
Nice title.
yeah, that's darn right it is. And it's funny because he's advertising it on his Instagram page, and the song that he has playing in the background of the still frame, the still shot of the cover of the book, or the advertisement for the book itself, is "God's Gonna Cut You Down" by Johnny Cash, and I love that song. So,
Hmm.
Luke, well done on your promotional stuff there, man. Because when you're using Johnny Cash like that, puts me back in the old West. So.
Nice.
Just throwing it out there. And we mentioned the Wild West a little earlier because The Quick and the Dead turns 30 this year, and we just did our 30th anniversary watch along for that on our And I Quote YouTube channel between myself, Lori Calcaterra, who writes a comic book series called Path of the Pale Rider, which has got a Kickstarter going on right now, and Chris Ingle. So was on with us, who's a podcaster himself who loves to talk about Star Trek. So
John and I just recently did our first Western anthology. That
yes.
was spearheaded by John. He's a pretty big, Western fiction fan now,
Mm-hmm.
and he really wanted to do an anthology. I had never written a Western before. It was one of the few genres that I had never written in. And so we put the book out. It's called Six Gun Legends. And we are so super proud of that book. We got a few guys that are some of the biggest names right now in modern Western,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then we got some guys who had never written Western fiction before, me being one of them, Chris Ryan, being another one. But just it's I had like as far as Western goes, it would have been the Lone Ranger for me. Like I mean, that would be the extent of my my dad, huge Lone Ranger fan since he was a kid. So that's what we tooled the book to be like, which is sort of larger than life characters that have a legend about them that sort of precedes them as they before they walk into a town. And that was the really the only guidelines that we did for the writers, is that it had to be a character like that. So really great fun group of characters. Mine are called Mr. and Mrs. Smith and Wesson, and they're a husband and wife team that they sort of banter back and forth. Like they express their love in bantering back and forth, and they both carry Smith and Wessons, and I had a lot of fun with it, kind of picturing my story as like something you'd watch on The Rifleman or one of those great, like we were talking about black and white TV shows, black and white movies from the past. So that again, that's called Six Gun Legends, and if you like Western fiction, then check it out.
Rock on, rock on. That's a nice little segue into our next question. And also, we have visual aids here in the studio because those things tend to work. Once again, this is Freewheeling Fridays with the guest of honor, Jim Beard. Do not forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends. And if you're joining us live or on the replay, thank you for doing that. If you have any questions for Jim Beard, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. And before we turn things over to Jim to talk about the year that was in 2024 and some of the great things that happened for him and his team over in 2024, we have this for you. That's an image that's going to keep me up tonight. Thanks, guys. Talk about creepy westerns. That's off the beaten path, is it not? Probably. But it's all good.
You know what? Like supernatural westerns, or what they call weird westerns, are really popular. Super popular.
Yep. So, but hey, whatever sells is what's good for the goose is good for the gander, as one might say. But wish all the creative team over there for that Kickstarter the best of luck, and hope you guys get funded and it turns out well and everyone responds to it positively. So we'll see what happens. But with Jim Beard being here, let's talk about this for a minute. So you had a great year in 2024, and this is some of your books that came out, some of your accomplishments. So take us through what happened with the year that was 2024.
So this is the spread that's up there right now. That's from Becky Books. So that's like me doing my stuff on my own. Becky Books is a mixture of fiction and nonfiction, and I think that's a really good example of what's up there. So that first one, there is the Bigfoot anthology. It's several stories, fiction stories that are centered on the legend of Bigfoot. And I love it because we did a whole bunch of different genres in there. There's some thrillers, some mystery, a little bit of science fiction. There's even a rom-com story in there by Mary Fan that I just absolutely love. And that's called Knocks and Howls. The title is taken from, there used to be a show called Finding Bigfoot. And they determined that the things to do out in the forest at night to attract Bigfoot is to knock on trees and then to howl and see if you get an answer. That next one is Women Take the Con, and that is a collection of essays on classic Star Trek, so the original series. And every single writer in the book is female, and they all take on one of the female characters from classic Star Trek and just kind of dig down into it and take the character apart and look at it in all really cool ways. Really, really great book. And the next two are my odes to the classic team up comic books, comic series. First one is Breaking Bold and Brave, which you might have guessed is an ode to the Brave and the Bold from DC. It's the entire history from the 1950s when it began all the way up until the early 80s when it ended. I would go through every single issue and break it down, and then there's essays that kind of punctuate all of that about different eras of the book. Walking the Wider Web is the same thing, but it's Marvel Team Up, the classic Marvel Team Up. Again, we go through the entire series, every single issue, making commentary about it, and then there are essays that go deeper into different aspects of it. And then finally, we talked about it. So that is the new DC Jones and Adventure Command book. I am so proud of this book. This one is, you can see it looks like a TV guide. This one supposes that in the 1970s there was a DC Jones TV series that only lasted one season and has never ever been shown again. And basically it sort of disappeared. You can't watch it on DVD or Blu-ray or VHS or anything like that at all. The only thing that survived was there were novelizations of 6 episodes, and that's what the book is that it's 6 different episodes from throughout the original 24 episodes about DC Jones fighting an alien invasion, a la the TV series The Invaders, the classic TV series. So wow, looking at it like that, Ryan, that makes Becky books look really cool. I love that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Absolutely. And thanks for describing each one because, Women Take the Con looks very interesting to me. Walking the Wider Web is a big one. That looks really fascinating. And obviously, DC Jones, I got a lot to catch up on when it comes to DC Jones. So, yeah, I got some stuff I got to get from Becky Books, among other things. This is a million things I got to do before I croak. This is definitely one of them. But yeah, no,
come on, that's definitely got to be one of them.
It's got to be one of them. But yeah, Walking the Wider Web about the Marvel team-ups, because, man, I heard that series lasted for a good while, too. So there's a lot of history there.
Issues, yeah.
It's a lot of history.
72 to 83, if I'm not mistaken, 150 issues. And then Brave and the Bold was like 200 issues, if I remember.
Wow. I did not know that. Wow, that's fascinating stuff. But yeah, definitely got a lot to catch up on, among other things. And then you mentioned this one earlier, Pulp Reality 5 is out now. So what story do you have featured in this one?
Okay, so this is my first new original masked pulp vigilante that I've had in a while. It's a brand new character that I had in my back pocket for years and just never, found a place or a time to write it. Charles Milhouse, who did Pulp Reality, invited me to write it, write a story for this. Going to be the final issue.
Yep, you keep jumping in and out here, Jim.
Yeah,
so
I'm sorry about that, Ryan.
Okay, it's okay. Tell us about this story.
It might be the computer doesn't like my face.
I don't know, but tell us about this story that's in Pulp Reality 5. You said it was a mass vigilante.
So it's a character that he's known as No, literally N-O, and he wears a mask that completely covers his face, top to bottom. You can't see anything at all.
Boy, you gotta love technology, folks. It just loves to be fickle that way.
Really. He does not speak whatsoever when he's masked, and
boy, does this technology love this guy or what? Seriously.
Wow, I don't know. All of a sudden, that's really, really kicking out. But anyways, but he also has another secret that he harbors, and I'm not going to ruin it. I think it's an original.
Once again, we apologize for these technical difficulties, folks. Sometimes the technology doesn't like to work with us. Sometimes it doesn't want to work for us. And sometimes it just wants to be silly and go on a tangent for some odd reason.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not sure why that's all of a sudden it's kicking out a lot. But anyways, that's going to be the last issue of that. It's like like an old pulp magazine kind of format. It's like an oversized thing. Really proud of that story, and we're waiting to get some feedback on that whole thing. I mean, there's so many good writers in there, just besides me, and we'd really love to hear some feedback on that one. I'm really excited about that character.
Yeah, definitely. This is Pulp Reality number 5, so fifth and last one. So if you want to catch up, like I need to desperately deal with a lot of Becky books and even Flinch books for that matter. Good Lord, thanks guys for giving me 6 million miles worth
I
long list
know,
of
right?
homework.
We're doing it just to do that to you.
Yeah, just to throw Ryan and his Ryan under the bus.
Yeah,
But
you
it's
might
all
need to
good.
get a few more jobs to just to be
Yeah,
able to buy all the books that we keep putting out.
yeah. And I'm looking behind me. I'm gonna need bigger bookshelves, guys. Which I know I can find at IKEA or maybe
We're
some other
gonna
place.
need a bigger bookshelf.
Exactly. Either a bigger bookshelf or just start storing them in totes and make it
That
even
was
more easier.
that was for Bobby Nash, who is the biggest Jaws fan
Hmm.
ever around
Yeah.
anywhere. So that was just for Bobby.
Yeah, I've known a lot of people over the years, but Bobby is certainly one of those friends of ours that stands out as being a bigger Jaws fan than anyone I've ever seen. So,
Yeah. That,
and oddly enough, the movie turns 50 this year, so we'll be doing
oh
a
my
50th.
God,
Yeah,
that's right.
75. So
Yeah.
we'll be doing a 50th anniversary watch along on Anti Quote channel later this year. Probably it's going to be in the month of July because that's when it takes place on July 4th. So stay tuned. It's coming in the next couple of months, and don't be surprised if Bobby Nash has a seat at the table and is sitting with us watching and commentating during the film, because basically it's our version of Mystery Science Theater 3000. You're watching us react to the movie, but you're more than welcome to watch the
Oh,
movie along
how
with us from the comfort of
fun!
your own home. So
How fun! It's like a
yeah,
whole new commentary track.
it is. It is. And Bobby's been on before. He did he was a guest on our episode for The Mask of Zorro. So
How nice.
which is a lot
The
of fun.
which one?
Antonio Banderas and Anthony Hopkins.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say the Tyrone Powers one, or
No.
okay,
This is Antonio Banderas and Anthony Hopkins and Catherine Zeta-Jones.
yeah.
As the world was discovering her beauty.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think Bobby would have a problem with it if you watched Jaws and he wasn't involved.
no, he'll more than likely. I think we're going to save a seat at the table for Bobby. He'll be there front row center, and he'll be probably sitting next to me, if not row 2 or whatever he ends up being in the order
Okay,
when we have the set. But yeah, Bobby is he's probably going to be there more than likely because he's the
good.
president and CEO of the Jaws Club. So kind of makes sense for him to be there when we celebrate 50 years worth of Jaws, directed by Steven Spielberg and company. And a non-working shark that apparently worked very well in the movie when it all was said and done, because half the movie you don't even see the shark. So kind of makes sense, and it works for everybody.
I
It's
love that. I love that film myself.
how many times have you seen it? 50
Oh my
billion
God.
times?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't even know. I was really jealous because my older sister got to go and see it back in the day in the theater. I was probably a little too young, so I was 10 in 1975. But
Hmm.
weirdly enough, so she went to visit my uncle in Iowa, and they went to see it while they were out there. My dad took my brother and I at that same time to go see The Sting,
Hmm.
which again was a movie that maybe a 10-year-old shouldn't necessarily be going to watch, but that's another one of those movies from then that I absolutely love. But yeah, my sister got to see Jaws.
Wow. That's definitely one of those situations where you're definitely going to need a bigger boat for that one. But yeah, no, it's we got plans for that. I mean, there's so many different movies that turn a certain amount of a certain age later this year. I mean, we just talked about Quick and the Dead earlier. Breakfast Club turns 40. We're going to be celebrating that next week, and then The Hunt for Red October turns 35 at the end of February for us on the programming schedule. And then months later, you get the 45th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back,
Oh,
which
are
is
you
insane.
trying to make me feel old?
No,
or
we're just trying to make you. No, we're just trying to make you feel younger.
what?
Same goes for both you and your tag team partner, John Bruning, out there at Flinch Books.
Yeah,
Don't worry, John. Age is just a number, brother. Don't worry about it.
yeah, he's a
Throw it.
little older than me, just a little bit. But yeah, I turned 60 this year.
How excited are you on a scale of 1 to 0? No, I'm kidding.
I,
Uh,
honestly, and it sounds like a cliche, but it is just numbers.
it is just numbers.
You know,
Yeah.
you're how you feel, or you're pardon me, you are how old you are is how you feel.
Right.
You know, I mean, and there are days where I feel like I'm 60, and there are days where I think I'm still 20. You know, so it's I don't know this system of arbitrary numbers that we've come up with. Like you can't sit and worry about stuff like that. I mean, it's kind of cool, and I'm going to do something cool. My birthday is May 4th, which is Star Wars Day now, and I'm the biggest Star Wars fan ever. I mean, I can't believe I was born on Star Wars Day. So I'm actually taking myself to Disney World so that I can be in Galaxy's Edge on my 60th birthday. So
That's great. That's
yeah,
great. That's
I
great.
hope
No, I'm happy for you, man.
so.
That's
Good,
great.
thank you. I appreciate it.
That's great stuff because Empire turns 45 later this year, and then Force Awakens turns 10. So yeah, we got two
What?
I know two generations of Star Wars are turning a certain age this year, and
Weird.
I'm excited to celebrate both of those films because I love that. Obviously, everybody loves Empire, but I'm one of the maybe not so many, but I love Force Awakens because Force Awakens is what made me a bigger Star Wars fan than I already was.
Yeah, I'm Ryan. I'm really glad to hear that because I really do love Force Awakens, and
Yeah, I
I'm
love
one
it.
of the few fans of Last Jedi, which is a whole nother conversation. But
Whole other conversation.
great to hear that. Thank you, and thanks
Yeah.
for reminding me that it's 10 years.
10 years because it came out in 2015. I'm sorry to say, but it's the truth. And we did one for what was it? Was it 2 years ago? I want to say. I'm trying to think of when it was. No. This was even earlier than that. This was a couple years ago in 2021. That was 4 years ago. We did a 5th anniversary watch along for Rogue One when it turned 5. So because I love Rogue One, So yeah, and I met a voice actress at a convention this past weekend. Helen Sadler was the voice of Jyn Erso in Star Wars Battlefront 2 video game. And I asked her, I said, what was your favorite line to record as Jyn Erso? Because I love Rogue One. It's my favorite prequel. It's a great movie. I love Star Wars. I love Rogue One. And she's like, yeah, I think my favorite line to record was Rebellions Were Built on Hope. Or, either that one or I'm trying to think of what other things she said to me because I just had this conversation with her about a week or so ago. And she mentioned that. And she's like, you're all rebels, aren't you? You know, it's really good stuff. So she was great. We got a selfie together. And I was wearing my Rogue One t-shirt that day. I dress appropriately when I go to certain events or I'm meeting certain people. So Helen Sadler
Is
was
she
great.
British?
Yes, she is.
Okay.
Yes. And because when she spoke to me, when I saw her and she was using her, her natural accent,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you really do sound like Jyn because you're okay. Because I didn't think she was, because voice actors have to put together a lot of different nuances and different.
Sure.
But she's a British voice actress, Helen Sadler, wonderful woman. And we got a selfie together. I talked her ear off about Rogue One and, my love of Star Wars. And she was telling me, oh, that's great. Like, I'm glad you're such a fan. And then, she was telling me, because she's like, have you caught up with any of the movies? Have you caught up with any of the shows? I'm like, I've watched most of them, not all of them, but I've watched most of them. And she says, have you seen Skeleton Crew yet? And I'm like, no, I haven't. She's like, well, I got to tell you, you got to sit down. You got to watch Skeleton Crew. It's so good. It takes you back. It's more Star Warsy than some of the other ones.
Yes.
So like, she's telling me like, go back and watch Skeleton. I'm sorry, I'm doing a horrible impression, Helen, if you're watching this, but she was like, you got to see Skeleton Crew. You have to see Skeleton Crew. And I'm like, all right. It's on my watch list. It is. I did mark it down on my Disney Plus, my digital, streaming, watch. Right. It's there. So I know I can access it. And the other thing, Matthew Wood was also there, and he was tabling right next to her because he's the voice of General Grievous, and he's done sound design and voiceover work for Star Wars for the last 25 or 30 years. So I met General Grievous in the flesh, and Helen Sadler were standing right next to each other, and I had a really good, honest, and open conversation between the both of them because I looked at Matthew and I said, hey, Matthew, you're a good voice actor. I love what you've done, but don't take this it's just for me. Rogue One is up here. Prequel trilogy is, it's down here. No
probably
offense.
Hears that, from time to time. Right?
I looked at him and I said, Matthew, don't take it personally, man. It's just that this is up here. Prequels are down here. He's like, no. I don't take offense, man. It's cool. I understand. But I said, hey, but I did tell him, I said, Matthew, your voiceover is good. You work hard. You do your thing. And it's great, and I respect that. And voiceover acting is a very fun thing to do. So I appreciate what both you and Helen, because Helen was also the voice of Rey in the Lego Star Wars games. And I think
how cool is that?
Yeah, so I was basically meeting Jyn. This is as close as I'm going to get to meeting Daisy Ridley and Felicity Jones. Because Felicity Jones and Daisy Ridley aren't doing any conventions anytime soon. So they don't do it.
You know what I would have asked him?
Yeah.
I would have said, did you do the coughing?
Oh, for the Grievous scene. Yeah, yeah.
Did he? I assume he did the coughing, right?
I think I mean he was the voiceover actor and the sound design guy, so I'm pretty sure he did. But then again, I
Yeah,
didn't get a chance. I didn't get. The next time I see Matthew at a convention, I will ask him, "Hey, was it you doing the coughing, or was that a different sound designer?"
yeah.
General
Inquiring minds
Kenobi.
need to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, because while I was there was an indie artist who was there, and he's actually going to be on, and I quote, later this year, at the Black Lotus on Instagram. His name is Matthew, and he had a skateboard deck of General Grievous. He paints and does artistry on skateboard decks, and he showed it to Matthew Wood. I was actually standing behind him while he was getting his skateboard deck signed, and he looked at it and he said, "Wow, this skateboard deck is really cool. This artwork is really cool." And Matthew signed it, General Kenobi, dot, 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 Matthew Wood, General Grievous. And he also signed one of his names that he had when Matthew Wood was a skateboarder in a previous life.
Oh,
So I did not know that about him. And Matthew explained that to me as I was walking over to his booth and talking to him about his artwork. And I said, "Man, I had no idea Matthew Wood was a skateboarder when he was a kid. Get out of here."
huh.
It's like, "Yeah, General Grievous was a skateboarder." I'm like, I didn't
Sounds
see
so
that. I didn't
cool.
see that one coming.
No.
And then I said to Matthew, "How long have you been doing this?" And he tells me, "Well, I've been doing this for so and so amount of time, and this is why I do it, because I love art and I like, I've had these ideas in my head for so long, and now I'm putting them, on paper, putting them to, the canvas, as one might
Yeah.
say."
Yeah.
And I said, "Hey, man, that's great. We should get you on the show. You interested?" It's like, "Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, dude. Your artwork looks cool. I like what you're doing. I want to support you in any way, shape, or form that I can. And we're gonna have him on the show later this year." He actually signed up. He's going to be on
Good for you.
towards the end of March. He's going to be stepping into the And I Quote Studios. So
Congratulations. That'll be great.
now we'll go into these conventions. One of the best things, and you know this too,
Yeah.
Jim, you and John and everyone else at Pulp Fest. Networking is important in the business. You got to
Yeah.
meet as many people as you can. Pass
Yeah.
your business card out as much as you can. Talk to as many people as you can. I know it's not always easy, but you got to put yourself out there, man. And going to Farpoint. Farpoint is a smaller, more intimate convention held in Pikesville, Maryland, in the state of Maryland, where I'm from. And I met a whole bunch of new indie artists I never heard of before. But that's the beauty of conventions. You never know who you're going to meet or who you're going to bump into.
Right.
So I got business cards. I talked to them. I said, "Hey, I want to have you on the show. I want to talk about your work and support what you're doing." And everyone I've talked to said, "Yes, I'm interested. Let's do it." I'm like, "Great. So here's my card. You take this card, you scan the QR code with your cell phone, and takes
That's
you to my
nice.
link tree that has a link to all the links to where you can check out my past episodes of the show where you can a link where you can sign up to be a guest on the program, all that stuff." So please network, folks, because networking is very important.
You
Very
heard it from the man.
Well, you know what they say, Jim, to be the man, you got to beat the man, as Ric Flair taught us many, many eons ago. Sorry, I'm going back to my pro wrestling days. But, to be
Yeah.
the man, you got to beat the man.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's what you got to do, brother. I am the cream that rises to the top. Oh, yeah. So as you saw the Macho Man clip at the top of the promo.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when my friend who puts these promos together for me, I said, "Hey, I want to include so-and-so clip," because I want them to speak to not only what the vibe of the show that I'm doing, but also to my personality, because I'm a fan of a lot of different things. So as you can probably tell, I have an unhealthy obsession with fandoms. But it's all in good fun, fellas. It's all in good fun.
In your line of work, that's a good thing.
That's what Jim said. So you're right, sir. You're right, sir. You're right. Once again, we are here with Jim Beard on this episode of Freewheeling Fridays. Do not forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you're joining us live or on a replay, thank you so much for doing that. If you have any questions for Jim Beard or myself throughout the course of this episode, because, hey, we can go all day, folks. No, we can't. But let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat, because we've talked about a lot of different things. We've been running the gamut, so to speak. But we've also been supporting other people out there who are writers, publishers, people who have Kickstarters and all that kind of stuff. So we have this for you. Take a look at this one.
Welcome to Based on a True Story, Volume 6, Tales of the Underworld, where true crime collides with the furry, funny, and fierce world of the Dust Bunny Mafia. This brand new 32-page comic reimagines real mafia legends, Mad Dog Cole, John Gotti, and more, through the eyes of our animal mobsters. Think The Godfather meets Looney Tunes, packed with action, humor, and full-color storytelling.
Wow, talk about Godfather making an offer he can't refuse. I know.
With funny animals. I love
Dude,
it.
who'd have thunk dust mites, dust bunnies, and other things becoming part of the mafia?
Uh-huh.
I have no idea what's going on.
There's
But
probably some truisms in there somewhere, you know.
yeah, probably. So feel free to check out those wonderful Kickstarters and websites and all that good jazz. It's good stuff. We try to support as many people as we can around these parts of the woods. Uh, boy, fantastic stuff. So what are the plans for the 10-year anniversary of Flinch Books? I know you said you're working on, was it DC
Yeah.
Jones, Midnight Guardian? Is there any other special treats or special little coming attractions that you can tease us with?
The big thing is that we're both working on the fourth volume of both those characters, Sergeant Janice and Midnight Guardian. We're really looking towards Pulp Fest in August. We're actually going to have a special talk called Flinch Fest. We've done that for a few years now, where we get like our own panel. But John and I are really going to load it up with specialness this year. We're probably going to have maybe a contest or, you know, some giveaways and things like that. But, you know, putting the books out is the main thing. And that takes a lot out of us to do. We're both, you know, have our day jobs and we do all the other things that we do. John has got probably more writing gigs right now, you know, in his list to do than ever before, but it's getting those two books out as a celebration of our main characters, you know, to do, and then the whole Pulp Fest thing, and just kind of, you know, giving back to the people who put us where we are today.
There you go. And can't wait to see what happens with that. Congratulations once again to both you and John and Flinch Books, everybody over there.
Yeah, it might be a big crash and burn, and it'll be interesting to watch. I don't know.
No. The last thing I want to see is a train that goes off the rails and ends up tragically. No.
Well, you just described my entire writing career right there.
No, I wouldn't want to describe it as that. No.
It's the train crash that you can't look away from.
No, I wasn't going in that direction, Jim. You know that. But no. You've done a lot of great things. You got a lot of good things going for you. And you know the stuff that you put out last year in 2024 looks fantastic, especially the web one, the Tangled Web, and going back to the Marvel team ups, because man, there's so many different heroes, so many different characters and interactions that I'm curious to read the history of.
Yeah.
Or seeing how they got along, or maybe didn't get along, because there were some Marvel characters that don't like each other very much. So,
and that happened way more in Marvel Team Up than it did in Brave and Bold. And it was one of the things that I discovered when going through both series is there's, you know, every time I did a commentary for an issue, I said, like, is this truly a team up? You know, do the characters work together? And half the time they didn't. You know, it was like, you know, just backbiting the entire time, or it wasn't a true team up. Maybe they, you know, worked against each other the whole time. So there's lots of fun things like that get pointed out.
yeah, absolutely. And just out of curiosity, because I think you mentioned this individual's name earlier in the show, Mary Fan, you say?
Yes.
Now, is Mary Fan from Crazy 8 Press?
Yes.
Okay, so I was at Farpoint, and she was there, along with the rest of the Crazy 8 crew, with Michael Jan Friedman. Bob Greenberger was in the building. Aaron Rosenberg was in the house.
Yeah. Paul Kupperberg, probably?
No, he wasn't there. He only does one show a year, and that's Terrificon in Connecticut.
Keith De Candido.
R.A. De Candido, he was there. I saw him. I said hi to him. I talked to him for a little bit.
I worked with
Glenn
him
Howman was there.
He's in a lot of my nonfiction books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Keith was there. He was great. It was great to see him. But yeah, Mary Fan was on both panels that I attended over the course of Farpoint Convention Weekend, which was held in Pikesville in Maryland.
Fantastic.
There was a panel. Yeah, thank you. There was a panel called "Moderating the Moderator" that she was on, talking about how people can be moderators for conventions and how you can moderate panels when you're at conventions or volunteer to do it. Yeah, I volunteer as tribute. I'm in the process. I've been applying to a lot of conventions recently to become a moderator for their panels, and I'm waiting to hear back. Hopefully something will come of it. There's also a few other venues I'm reaching out to see if I could be a moderator for their conventions coming up. So cross your fingers, cross your toes, see what happens, because I would love to do it, because I like talking to people and I like having fun, and there's nothing wrong with that in this crazy mixed world that we're living in. And then the second panel that Mary Fan was on was how you can intersect your day job with your writing. So she was on both panels, and it's funny because both women were on both panels, and it was Mary Fan from Crazy 8 Press and Adina Mignona from the Big Sci-Fi Podcast. is on there, and
Hmm.
she's an indie sci-fi writer who's written
Yeah.
books called the Robot Galaxy series, and she's also written a sci-fi book called Lunar Logic. In case you're wondering, so it's funny you mentioned Mary Fan. I'm like, I know her because I know
That's
a lot of the people from the Crazy Eight Press team.
Knox and Howells was the first time that I worked with her, and I came away with her story being one of my most favorites. And telling her that she needs to like continue the characters and do more stuff like that. She kept thinking she was taking a chance with the way it was set up, and like I said, it's like almost like a rom com. It's a guy and a girl who both have podcasts about like Bigfoot and cryptids, and they kind of like they both go out at the same time, and they're kind of at odds with the way they search for Bigfoot, and then hilarity ensues after that. It's a really really fun, wonderful story, and I'm so glad that she's in the book.
Mm. Fantastic stuff. And she's a fantastic person when you
Yeah.
get to meet her. So, and I mentioned Adina Mignona earlier. This is the book that she wrote, Lunar Logic. She's in the process of writing a sequel. So there you go. If you're into sci-fi meets AI, hard sci-fi meets AI kind of genres, this is what she has available. So check it out. Adina Mignona is featured on Amazon. She's everywhere you can find her books, Barnes and Noble. I think adinam.com is her website. So feel free to check that out. She's also on Instagram. And she's a part of the Big Sci-Fi Podcast, which is a podcast hosted by four individuals, and they love to talk about Star Trek, as you could probably tell. But
Hmm.
they also like to talk about many other aspects of sci-fi, which includes movies, interviews with some of the biggest name actors and some supporting actors. So check out the Big Sci-Fi Podcast on Spotify or wherever you download your podcasts. You may learn a thing or two. And Adina Mignona is a member of that panel of wonderful people. And she's been on my show in the past, and she's a good friend of ours. So
can, can I plug my podcast?
yeah, go right ahead. Knock yourself out.
I
Go ahead.
have, of
Go
all
for it.
things, a Doctor Who podcast that I do with John S. Drew. It's for we're watching classics Doctor Who. It's called the Doctor's Beard Podcast, and it can be found where all quality podcasts can be found, like on Apple and all of those. So basically, what it is that my buddy John is a Doctor Who expert. He's been watching the show since the 80s and just loves it one side up and down the other, and I had never seen it. 2 years ago, we started in on the very first Doctor Who story, An Unearthly Child, from 1963, and we've been watching every single one in order since then. We're about in the middle of Tom Baker, and we're having a great time. Every episode is us talking about whatever the story is. We're currently watching the Invasion of Time right now, and then this coming Saturday will be the episode about that one, the Doctor's Beard Podcast, and we have a Patreon for it too, where we do extra episodes just for the Patreon.
That is spoilers. That is masterful right there. Hello, sweetie. That's sorry. That's my limited knowledge of Doctor Who. And Alex Kingston, if I ever see you at a convention, love to pick your brain about your time on ER, because ER was a great medical drama, and that was one of your first, some of your
Mhm.
early acting gigs in your career. And she doesn't seem to age either. So Alex Kingston, well done, young lady.
You know what? The key that I have found to going up to people, celebrities at a convention, to really get them to light up is to bring up a work that they've done that nobody else is bringing up.
Hmm.
That worked for me with David Prowse.
Oh yes.
Um,
Yeah.
I went many years ago. I went up to him at a convention, and my wife was a fan of in the '70s. The BBC did productions of Shakespeare plays, and her favorite was As You Like It. And lo and behold, in As You Like It was David Prowse. He played Charles the Wrestler. So here, everybody's going up to him, and of course, it's Darth Vader. Sign this photo of Darth Vader. Blah 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 blah. And I went up to him and I said, "Hey, my wife's a huge fan of the As You Like It production," and he lit up like a Christmas tree. He was all of a sudden he was animated and he wanted to talk about it. He wanted to tell me about how he choreographed the wrestling scenes and how much he enjoyed doing that. we never even mentioned Darth Vader the entire little time that we talked. So that's really like the key, is to bring up something that nobody else is bringing up. Hopefully, it's not something that they hate, right?
Yeah, that's a valid point. Valid
You,
point.
you made
Yeah.
me think of that by saying like, "Oh, I want to talk about you being on ER."
Yeah. Yeah, because Alex has done a lot of things in her career. ER was certainly one of them. She was on the show for many number of years, actually, and then later on in her career, she was on the Arrowverse shows on the CW. She was Dinah Lance's mom. So
Oh, cool.
yeah, Black Canary's mother, if I remember correctly. So Alex Kingston, well done, young lady. You haven't aged a day. So that's the beauty of certain actors or actresses. They just don't seem to age, or they age like a fine wine.
Well,
Uh,
they have that portrait of them, in the attic or in the closet that
yes,
does all of that for them.
Mr. Dorian Gray.
Hmm.
Sorry, that's a literary reference in case anyone's wondering. The Portrait of Dorian Gray, or whatever the full title of that. It was either The Picture or The Portrait of Dorian Gray, whatever the original title of the book was from way back when. I can't remember what it was.
You're not saying that your audience is not literate, right?
No, I'm not saying that. No, they are literate. No, no, I'm sure that they are. I'm not trying to throw anything or anyone under the bus when I say that. Good Lord, guys. Good
Okay,
Lord.
good. I just wanted to clarify that for your audience.
No, of course not. We're all here to have fun and be respectful of each other
I
to the
can see
best.
the pitchforks and the torches. They're storming the castle right now. They
That's
want
right.
your head.
Yeah, in the words of Princess Bride, have fun storming the castle. Anyway, yeah, they won't make it. They're probably going to end up dead. He's deader than dead. He's dead. No, I'm sorry. That's a line from Princess Bride. I digress. I haven't seen that movie in a long time. Goodness Lord.
It's funny. How many? 2, 3 years ago, I
Hmm.
saw it for the very first time.
How was it?
I did not enjoy it.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
finally saw it a couple years ago, and I'm like, eh.
I'm not a fan. That's kind of like what I said, was like, I'm not getting it. And you know what? Maybe it's because I went too long and I had heard
Mhm.
everybody raving and raving for years and years, and oh, you have to watch it. And there's way better like fantasy or films from that era than that.
Yeah.
I did not get it. I didn't think it was funny. I don't know. It,
It's fine. It is what it is. I don't know. For me, when I think of fantasy, I'm thinking of, if you want to think of modern movies, I'm thinking Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. That's a darn good movie.
yeah,
And then I'm thinking of old school fantasy. I'm thinking of Neverending Story,
right there
which
you
is
go.
classic. Which is
I'm a
classic.
fan of the Roger Borman Excalibur
I
film.
still have not seen that.
Oh, see,
I
now
gotta see
I
it.
get it, because there are people who don't like that. What about Dragon Slayer?
Heard of it, never seen it.
Okay, you're like me. Heard of it, never seen it.
Yeah, I'm sad. I'm pathetic. But yeah, I need to do some more research here. But Dragon Slayer, and there was another one. I think it was called Kroll. I think it
Oh
was
yeah,
called. I haven't seen that either, but I heard it was really cheesy, goody
Crow is science
80s-ness.
fiction, but it's kind of science fiction
It's a little
fantasy
bit. It's a
in a
little bit of
way.
both.
Yeah.
So I need to sit down and watch Kroll because I heard how cheesy
No,
that is, but I still
I'm
want to
going to
see it.
recommend
Is it?
oh,
Are
wait a
you
minute.
are you thinking of the other one, Battle Beyond the Stars?
No, 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 no. Hawk the Slayer.
I never heard of that.
You have got to
What the heck
find
is that?
a movie called Hawk the Slayer.
I don't know what this is.
It's this kind of obscure fantasy film
I don't
that
know.
is it has like a cult following. It has, of all people, it has Jack Palance as the
Oh
bad guy in
God,
it.
I
Other than
love.
that, it's like a no-name cast, and it's like the budget is really low, but it's very, very fun. It's called Hawk the Slayer. Drop everything else. Don't watch all those.
Yeah, Hawk the Slayer. Hawk the Slayer.
Yeah, but you're
Hawk.
familiar with the Excalibur movie, right?
I am. I
Okay.
just never seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what it is. I just never seen it.
Okay, I forgive you.
Yeah, it's okay. I know what it is. But Jack Palance, I mean, he was boss Carl Grissom in
I
'89's
know,
Batman.
right?
Carl
There you go.
Grissom. Jack, listen, maybe we can cut a deal.
Mhm.
It's just, oh gosh.
Your
I mean,
life won't be worth spit.
spit. Yeah, see that, which, you would think that in any movie,
Yeah,
someone would say the S word, but I guess they wanted to keep it more PG-13 and not an R rating.
yeah.
So
But
instead
he
of him
also
saying,
says, "Say this son of a bitch," and blah 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 blah, or
yeah.
whatever. But yeah, he couldn't say. He couldn't say.
Yeah,
the
he
S
says
word.
certain curse words in the movie, but he doesn't drop the SH word in the movie because I'm like,
Yeah.
your life won't be worth spit. And I'm like, you know what?
He-
But that's a good line. I should use that. I
He's
should.
just livens up that movie even.
He's a great, because he's a great actor. Because he's great.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, the first time I was introduced to Jack Palance as an actor wasn't so much Batman '89, even though I watched that first before I saw this movie. But when I saw him as Curly in City Slickers 2, The Legend of Curly's Gold, as Duke, aka the real Curly, because Curly never died in the first movie to begin with. It's like, oh, this guy's a gruff, scruff, but I like him. For some reason I like his character.
He did a version of Dracula.
I think he did, yeah.
Produced and maybe directed by Dan Curtis, the creator of Dark Shadows.
That I've never seen. So there's some research I got to do on this.
You know what Dark Shadows is?
I know what it is. I know exactly what it is.
Yeah, there's a in it. I hate to say it. I don't remember if it was a TV movie or if it was a feature film. But he does have a version of Dracula, and I saw it not too long ago. It's not bad at all. I mean, you have to imagine him as Dracula, and you get the whole thing right there.
I'm gonna have to
Jack Palance.
Gonna have to look into this because I haven't seen a lot of his work actually, because I've only seen 3 movies with Jack Palance: '89's Batman and City Slickers 1 and 2. Because I've seen clips of Cops and Robertsons between him and Chevy Chase, but I've never actually seen the whole movie, through and through with Jack Palance in it, Cops and Robertsons. So I don't know. I'm behind, man. This is the sad thing about reality.
Yeah, I'm starting to realize that now.
I got a million things to do before I die, but which is binge watching all these different movies and shows that Jim Beard and I have talked over the course of this program. And the other thing is, I got to read some books featured in Flinch Books, but also featured from Becky Books. Because Becky Books is just as important as Flinch Books, if not they're both equal. So, yeah.
Well, I cannot say in public that they're equal to me because John is usually always listening in,
yes.
and then I'll hear about it, later. But,
there's got to be a good balance.
Yeah, Becky Books is only like 4 years old now, and Flinch is
that's okay.
So.
A lot more history with Flinch Books than Becky Books.
Yeah, but it's I approach them in different ways. I mean, there are things that I would do with Flinch Books that I wouldn't do with Becky Books, and vice versa. It's like, do I record with my band or do I record a solo album?
It's up to the person, I guess, or up to the writer. I mean, I like writing. A few years ago, I wrote a short story, and now I want to write a short story that's a little more words than the one I did before, because the first one I did was 3,000. I want to push myself to do 5,000.
Great.
And then after that, maybe I'll push myself to do 10,000 words. I'm talking about word count. This isn't about, Yeah. But I did a 3,000 word story during NaNoWriMo a couple years ago, and it was a Western, because I like Westerns. I do. And that was fun, but now I want to see if I can stretch my writing muscles even more and write a different story, maybe set in the 90s, maybe something set in the late 80s, because I was born in 87, raised in the 90s, so I can write something featured in the 90s because I know a thing or two because I was there. Or, something like that. I don't know if I want to, I'm juggling a lot of different things in my mind, and I'm trying to put a pen to paper, as one might say.
Sure. Well, you remember my advice, which is finish something.
Finish something. Well, I did. Well, I mean, NaNoWriMo, I did finish a 3,000 word story.
Good.
So.
Good. Yeah. Remember, it might not be very pretty through that first pass, but then you just take the time to make it pretty afterwards. But get it done and finish it first.
Yeah, I spoke to a friend of ours
who's about the rest.
Well, the 3,000 word story that I wrote a couple of years ago, I did speak to one of our writer friends, and I asked them to look at it and give me some critiques, and then they said, okay, I like this, but you need to do this, that, and the other. So I did 2 or 3 revisions, and then I sent it back over to them, and they're like, okay, this is good. You got it. Now your 3,000 word story is good. It's tight. It's you got yourself something. You got yourself something cooking here. I'm like, that's good.
Did you get it published?
No, but I wouldn't say no to it getting it published. I would like to do that.
Well, yeah. I mean, the wonderful thing is there's so many calls for submissions out there for all different kinds of anthologies.
Oh.
And every, you got to find the right one, and you send it in on spec, like they say, and chances are, you'll find the right anthology where it needs to land, and then the next thing you know, you're a published writer.
Ryan Permison, published writer. Has a nice ring to it.
Yeah,
sounds nice. I think that'd be fun. But yeah, the story I wrote a couple years ago was a Western, so it's set in the 1800s. So
very cool.
In case anyone's wondering, it's called Outlaw of Virtue. is the name of the story.
Oh, I like the title.
Yeah,
Well,
Outlaw.
Then you wrote a Western before I even did.
Yeah, this was during, when did I was NaNoWriMo. I'm trying to think of what year it was. It was like 2021 or 2020 during the pandemic. So
Yeah.
it was probably 2021. It was like right in the midst of the lockdown, I think it was. I think it was 2021. I got to look back at my notes, but I'm pretty sure it was 2021, if not 2020.
The profession
Yeah.
of writer is
Yeah.
probably one of the few types of people that actually almost more benefited from the lockdown. Like that's because they could literally focus and do that. There's probably more writing that was created during that time than just about any other time. So, if there's any one good thing that came out of that, it's that there was probably a lot more books written and published during that time.
I would venture to say yes, because I dipped my toes in the writing waters when I wrote that 3,000 word short story, and then I also started up my friends and I started up our YouTube channel right before the lockdown started, and then we just took off and we were off to the races because we were all at home, so we just had to make content and entertain as many people as we could, and we did it. And the crazy thing was, going back to, and not to make this show about myself because I want to keep the focus on Jim Beard, the guest of honor, but going back to the beginning of lockdown, I started reaching out and people came to me and said, yeah, we want to do this. So we ended up one of the first movie watch alongs we ever did on the show, or on the set, virtual set, I might add, because like I said, we were all during lockdown procedures. We did a Mortal Kombat the movie 25th anniversary watch along with Mick Strawn, who was one of the production guys who built the sets for the movie, and Daniel Pacina, who helped with the character designs for the game. So I had two different people from two different aspects of Mortal Kombat in our virtual studio. It was me and one or two other co-hosts, and we had the two guests with us. And I was like, holy cow, we're sitting with two people who have had their, who have dipped their toes / feet into the Mortal Kombat waters for years and years and years, or did the one movie. And then, the Daniel Pacina, Master Pacina, is an instructor of martial arts. And, he did the character designs for the original games and worked with the team over at Midway Games. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like who'd have thunk that a little channel like this, we get these two big dogs on the show at the same time in the same space with the movie celebrating 25 years of epicness.
Yeah.
And we did that. And not many, all I did was reach out, send out messages and say, hey, this is who we are. This is what we're doing. Elevator pitch, guys. Elevator pitch. It's so important. Whatever industry you're in, elevator pitch yourself. Promote yourself as much. And we did. And we've had, speaking of Batman 89, because we were talking about John Jackson Miller's Batman Resurrection. Before I had John Jackson Miller on my show, a couple months prior to him being on set, I interviewed Alexander Knox himself, Robert Wool. And here's
a good point. The reason for all of this is because you're a go-getter. You're ambitious. See, that's what I struggle with. Like I might have been in, a higher being than I am now. But that's why you get those things, because you believe in nothing ventured, nothing gained. And that's really to be commended. I take inspiration from people like you, because that's always been a struggle for me, is to to put myself out there. I don't want one necessarily, but I could probably use an agent, be able to get me more things than I normally do. But I just go, I'm too in my own head, and it's like, oh, somebody might like yell at me, but not you. You are ambitious, so I salute you for that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was a huge honor to have John Jackson Miller on the show.
Oh,
we had Robert. That guy's got stories for days, man. I mean, it's the fact that he said this in interviews too. You can find this on social media. And was it Jim Beard? You and I can send you the links to those interviews. So you can go back and watch the interviews with John Jackson Miller and Robert Wool, celebrating a little Batman goodness. John's got stories for days. Robert Wool is a huge movie historian. Like, he picked my brain for what seemed like hours about his favorite movies, why he likes them, or certain actors that he enjoyed working with when he was on set. Obviously, I had to ask him, what was it like being Alexander Knox, working with Tim Burton, all those guys. He was like, oh yeah, working with Tim was great. Working with Michael Keaton was a treasure, a joy, and I'm like, dude, that scene in the art room when you're looking at his art, I mean, dude, it's so good. It's so iconic. He must have been king of the Wicker.
Batman Returns, is he?
No, but he discusses the reasons why he was written out, why they didn't bring him back, and and he wished he would have come back because Tim was directing it at that point.
Yeah.
So, man, but the good news is, for those of you who are wondering, Batman Resurrection, written by John Jackson Miller, does feature the character
Very
of
much.
Alexander Knox. And when he's in it, every time I read his lines or any other character that was in the first film, which remember was '89's Batman, I'm hearing Robert Wool's voice.
Yeah.
I'm hearing if
Yep.
if Vicky Vale's in it, I'm listening to Kim Basinger say it. Bruce Wayne, I'm thinking of Michael Keaton. No disrespect to Kevin Conroy, but Michael Keaton was that iteration's Batman. So I'm
Sam does a great job with getting the characters, and after I read it, I said
mhm.
to people that Batman and that Bruce Wayne is a very particular Batman and Bruce Wayne. It's not like any other, and he
Mhm.
really got it where you hear Michael Keaton, when you're reading the dialogue. So yeah, he did. I actually tagged him when I was done with the book, and I said, I think that you were probably more well suited to write that book than any of your other tie-ins. And it's not to put any of his other tie-in novels down. It's just I don't know what it was. It was like he was born to write that one in particular. Look at that. How nice.
Yeah, my friend. By the way, I want to give a shout out to a good friend of mine, a good friend of ours, Jeff, who lives in the great state of PA. Jeff is a very close personal friend of mine, and Jeff was at New York Comic Con when the book was released, and John Jackson Miller obviously had a booth there. He was selling copies, and I said, "Hey, listen, I know you're going to be busy at New York Comic Con doing all these different things, but can you please, please, please get me John Jackson Miller's Batman book, because I really want to read it after hearing all the hype about it, and I had him on the show most recently to promote the release of the book. I want to read the book." And he's like, "Yeah, sure, I got you, man. I'll," because I sent him, like, as soon as he said that he was willing to do it, I texted Jeff like 5 or 6 times leading up to New York Comic Con saying, "This is where John Jackson Miller is going to be. These are his signing times. This is where he's going to be signing the book." Like, and not only did he get me the book, he also got me a poster of the cover of the book, and John signed it.
Very
So,
cool.
which I'm going to get. He didn't send me the poster just yet. He's going to send me the poster sometime later.
Very cool.
But he sent me the book, and I'm only a little bit into it, but I gotta say it's pretty stellar. So
Yeah, it really, really is. And I'm looking forward to the next one. He's working on
the sequel. He's working on a sequel.
Yeah.
I think it's called Batman Revolution, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
coming in the fall of 2025. So
Well, and one of the things that he does is that he introduces more
mhm.
of the comic book characters into that like movie
Oh yes,
universe, but in a way that makes sense in that universe. And that, again, that's something really, really cool that he did.
that's even more amazing. Where do they get a load of me? Anyway, this has been a great, stupendous, I might say, episode of Freewheeling Fridays. I'm going to take this opportunity to say thank you to Jim Beard. Thank you, kind sir, for being here. It was great to take a trip down memory lane with you in certain aspects, and also you gave me 6 miles more of homework, which means I got some stuff I need to watch a couple of things, whether it's the Werewolf by Night, whether it's the Hawk movie with Jack Palance, and start buying more books and supporting of Flinch books and Becky books, because I don't have any Becky books in my repertoire here. So I need to get on Becky Books' Amazon page, I believe it is, or your website, whatever it is. I gotta do some digging. But in the meantime, for those of you wondering if you want to know more about Jim Beard and the great things that he's doing and you're doing, good sir, where can they follow you on social media or purchase copies of your books?
Okay, so most importantly, we have flinchbooks.com. It's something that John and I finally achieved last year. Flinchbooks.com. You'll see about the company, about us, and our books. And then those all have links right to Amazon. If you want to see everything that I've done, go to Amazon under books and put in my name. You're going to see the Flinch books, the Becky books, and then all the stuff that I've done with other publishers, including my licensed tie-in work. Becky Books does not have a website yet, but it does have a really great Facebook page. It's called the Jim Beard and Becky Books page. So jump on over there. You're always going to see the latest updates. Flinch Books has its own Facebook page too. And then I'm on Blue Sky. It's at writer Jim Beard. And I'm still on X, yes. And that's the same thing, at writer Jim Beard. So please come in, say hi. If you're in the Northwest Ohio, Southeast Michigan area, The first weekend of March is Fantasticon in Toledo, and I will be there like I've always been there. It's 10 years running now for that show. I will have a table with all my books there. Please stop by and say that you saw me on this show. That's important.
Yes, it's quite important. So please take notes, ladies and gentlemen. Jim Beard, you're a gentleman and a scholar. I'm going to talk to you here momentarily, so don't go anywhere. Feel free to grab some free food and drink in the backstage area of this non-existent studio that's not really built. It's called Virtual Studios for a reason, folks. Get with it. But for those of you wondering, there are links in the description of this episode of Freewheeling Fridays where you can follow Jim Beard and myself on all forms of social media. So those links are down in the description below. So check it out. Support all the wonderful people who support you. My name is Ryan of Antiquote Channel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RyanRPM5. Check us out on all forms of social media simply at And I Quote Channel. My YouTube channel is where we embrace the nerd within you. So if you enjoy talking about movies or TV shows or comic books or books, words on a page, ladies and gentlemen, and you want to support some indie creators, we interview them on And I Quote on the weekends, Saturdays, 12 p.m. EST. So check it out. Also, we got some other great pieces of programming, the movie watch-alongs on the second, third, and fourth Fridays of each month, respectively. Fridays at 7 p.m. EST. And the Meaning of Fandom is on the first Fridays of each month at 7 p.m. EST. Also, we're on the road to 5,000 subscribers. Once we do, we'll throw a great big live stream celebration where we're going to include some special giveaways that you, the incredible viewer/subscriber, is going to be eligible to win. Also, And I Quote has merchandise. We have shirts, we have hoodies, we have stickers, coffee mugs, stationery, throw pillows, bed sheets, maybe even blankets, something to that effect. They're in our Redbubble store. Everything is on sale, so check it out. Links are in the description below. They're also in our social media bio, so check those out as well. But thank you once again for all of you and for you who have been here for this episode of Freewheeling Fridays. These drop on Fridays, 11 p.m. EST. We do our best to have a guest each week. We will have a guest next week, so we're very excited to have them on. Not going to reveal who it is just yet, but you'll find out Fridays, 11 p.m. EST on the Madness Entertainment Group YouTube channel and across all forms of social media. And if you're wondering, hey, the Madness Entertainment Group is really cool. What else do they have in store for us over there? Well, they have lots of great pieces of programming, but you don't have to take my word for it. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell to be notified of when the videos go up or they go live. And remember, life is better when supporting indie creators from all over the world. Take a look.
Click on the tube and feel the vibe. Every show you crave right here live. Heroes and villains clash in the night. Madness Comic Network sets it right. Scroll through the list, find what you need. Epic battles and fast-paced speed. From capes to cosmic space delight. Tune in and watch your favorites ignite. On Facebook, share the thrill so grand. On X, the buzz across the land. Madness Comic Network all around. In every episode, joy is found. Uploads, they never end. Superheroes and their friends. Catch every twist and every turn. Madness Comic, you will yearn. Stay up to date with every twist. Madness Comic, don't miss a gist. From laughter to tears, every mood. Madness Comic sets the groove. Click that button and subscribe. Catch the wave and ride the tide. Join the fun, join the craze. Madness Comic brightens days. Hey! New uploads, they never end. Superheroes and their friends, catch every twist and every turn. Madness Comic, you will yearn. Stay up to date with every twist. Madness Comic, don't miss a gist. From laughter to tears, every mood. Madness Comic sets the groove. Click that button and subscribe.